everybody, welcome back to When Words Fail Music Speaks, where we fight depression with the power of music. I'm your professional handicap host, James Cox. I got an awesome interview today with Mr. Bryan Biniak. I said that right, because
Yeah, perfect.
yes. First, let me tell you about it first, okay? So, Bryan is the president of Song Trader and the founder and chairman of Connected Travel, a connected vehicle technology company with 20 plus years of experience leading project innovation and business development with media and technology industries. His roles spanned entrepreneur and residence with NGP Capital, Nokia's corporate venture capital group, general manager at Microsoft, and global VP and general manager of Nokia's global app store. He also served as the VP and business development for Harmonix Music Systems, which is my favorite game of all time. It's because of the music, right? Which is owned by Epic Games. Uh,
Mm.
Developers of the most successful music games in music history, Rock Band, Dance Central, and Guitar Hero. And he was a COO of Your Mobile, the largest ringtone and mobile content platform and production company in the world. Bryan, how are we doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to meet you, and thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for coming. And so when I grow up, I want to be just like you because you have a massive itinerary here that you've been around and then some.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So we were saying about your age, and you don't look the age you told me about. You know.
No, I just turned 56.
Hmm?
I've been married for now 21 years. I have three boys, a 20-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 14-year-old. So, I'm significantly older because I've managed through both marriage and fatherhood.
Right.
But I've managed to squeeze more than a few careers, in my several decades out there, and it's been an amazing adventure so far.
Yeah. Well, I'm just amazed about what you already done so far, and I guess the sky's the limit. You got more stuff to do, more adventures to get to, and everything. But we're here to talk about music with specifically. So I want to know who is your favorite artist as of right now. I know that's a hard question, so
Hmm.
yeah.
Now, I have to say, he's recently passed. I really liked Jimmy Buffett because of, what the culture and lifestyle that he created around his music, and how he made people feel like they were on vacation, no matter, where they were. And I love the fact, I always tell people I want to be him when I grow up, where I can just wear, t-shirt and shorts and no shoes and, just smile and have a good time and sing my way through life. That would be fantastic.
Well, no shirt, no shoes, no problem, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right. Okay. So,
What about you? Who's your favorite?
oh, geez. Right now it's got to be if we go country, because country is my favorite music genre ever made. We got to go with Chris Stapleton. Chris Stapleton or Eric Church. Eric Church is the number one guest I want to have on the show. Because sometimes music opens up feelings that you can't tell how people feel, like and his music just does that for me, and I want to. Now I want to just thank him for making music and making life better for me listening to his music.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
makes sense.
Eric Church and Chris Stapleton is mine. Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah. Uh, um, so music genre. Do you have a number one and number two? I mean, like, do you prefer, you know,
I have to, I have, I still have a fondness for alternative rock, and I guess that just stems from the fact that that was big, during my, you know, college years and after college years, those kind of formative years where you're kind of in engaging.
Right.
But I also, I have to say, I also, and it depends on where you are in your life. I also have a fondness for, classic rock, because it reminds me of when I was a kid and growing up. And I think when you get into your late 50s, you start to reflect. And when you reflect, you go back to that place. My father collected vinyl, and so that was a big thing, is,
I
pulling
got
out.
I got a light of vinyl back here, man. That vinyl's
Yeah,
great.
I
Yeah.
I see that. I see
Yeah.
that. I don't know if I was allowed to, but I listened to a lot of his, bands like the Stones and the Who, and get to play, all of that, all those artists, and have that really interesting experience growing up. So it reminds me of back in my days in Ohio.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Um, you said you have children, so do they introduce you to new bands that you never heard before, or like have you
Yes.
said you should listen to this one instead of
Yeah, they do. And it's they use my Spotify account. So they create, so every time I turn on my Spotify, I see the new music,
yeah
that they're listening to. It was funny. I was playing the Spotify account over the weekend in the house, and I put it on, and I was listening to the music, and it kept switching, and I was like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, "Something's broken with the network."
yeah
But then I realized it was my son who was listening. He goes to the University of Hawaii. He was kept switching it out. I'm like, "Oh, all right. Apparently
yeah
you want to use the account right now, so I will let you go."
yeah
Um, but he, one of my favorite songs that he introduced me to is by Nappy Roots. It's called A Good Day. I don't know if you've heard that,
yes
which is,
yes I have yeah
and but you also, get introduced to, through your kids, but you also through your kids' friends and the kids' schools, right? And
right
also and vice versa. So it's really fun that music is so connected, to that part of your life as well.
right yeah, and it's okay to disagree with people about music because I really don't like Avenged Sevenfold, but I know many people who do. I'm not sure if you are a fan of Avenged Sevenfold, but I just don't like that band for some odd reason. It's just but that's okay. It's okay not to like everybody's stuff.
Yeah, no, there's a few artists that are I do not listen to that my son listens to more
Right.
than if
More than a few. Oh no. Yeah. Well. Okay. So let's talk about your career here. You are the president of Slum Trader, and
yes.
according to your LinkedIn, you've worked there for 3 years now, which is or is that more years?
Well, it's interesting because I've been an advisor to the company for about 8 years.
Right.
When the founder of the company moved here, who is a music producer, an artist, when he moved here from Australia to start the company, he brought his wife and his two boys, and they applied to a school that my son was at. And my son's was like, they met each other, like became immediate best friends, and said, "We got to help these kids, this family get into this school." And so I met him through that, the founder, Paul Wilshire,
Right.
and we connected, and he asked me to, because I'm a tech guy and he was building a tech company. So I became an advisor. And about a little over 3 years ago, he needed some help and said, "Hey, could you help out?" I was going to be like 90 days, and somehow it's now over 3 years, that I've been in the role. And it's been fun. It's been an amazing adventure with a lot of really cool people doing great things.
Right. So so as the president of Song Trader, how do you see the role of music licensing evolving in the age of digital media and social media platforms? Because that seems to be the most, I guess, streamed, no pun intended, streamed thing as opposed to vinyl and CD and cassettes. Cassettes are coming back in a slow way and all of it. But how do you see it? How do you see the role in music licensing evolving over that age?
Yeah, it's interesting, because we do a lot of different kinds of licensing. We'll do licensing for TV commercials, and movies and film and TVs and video games, right? Typically the budgets are bigger. It's much more, complex production. And then you got social and digital media. Sometimes, if it's a big brand like a Coca-Cola, they may have a bigger budget, but most companies, the budgets, that they have for licensing into social and digital media, whether it's TikTok or Instagram, or, for a YouTube video or whatever, they're a bit on the smaller side. I mean, art, because, we want to make sure that, artists get as much value as possible. It's always like, it's like we got to make sure that people value the music and value the artist and what music can do. But one of the things that great about it is that on social and digital media, you got to keep it up, right? You got to, if because you got to build an audience and you got to, people need to kind of know when you're coming back. Because if they're not going to you, they're going to somebody else,
Right.
which means that there's volume, of TikToks, which means there's volume of licenses, which means that there's lots of opportunity for artists to make money. I think that, which is great, and we want to try to make that happen. The thing that makes it complicated with licensing is that, like, say we license into a video game, like we work with the guys over at Epic and Fortnite, and they put the music in there. Somebody will do something on Discord or Twitch, or TikTok or whatever. That's then a whole nother license. So you get a license for all the platforms, not just one of them. Even though it's licensed for a video game, people don't just game and play. They
Right.
game and share, they game and listen, they game and stream, they game and do all these things. And that's what's great, for musicians today, because there's so many more ways to make money than ever before.
Yeah. I'm an avid gamer, and I don't know if you are, but
I
I
could tell from
find
my chair.
not, yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
But I find the game's more enjoyable because of the music. Not because of the game specifically, but the music also, because the music goes with the game so well. And I guess
hmm
that's where you come in. It's like you license out that music, that song to the companies, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So we do everything from licensing. Sometimes we do original compositions with artists. Sometimes we do re-records or remixes with artists. So we have lots of different ways that we bring music to video games.
Right. Yeah. So so independent artists can reach out to you and license their stuff too. It's not just big bands, right? I mean,
That's right. So that's right. So one of, Song Trader is made up of, the original Song Trader team, and then 11 other companies have been acquired by the business and brought into the Song Trader group. The last of which is a company called Bandcamp that's now part of Song
yes.
Trader. Bandcamp has over 5 million artists, independent artists and labels. 11,000 independent labels have, stores in there selling to 47 million fans, their music. And so we're trying to connect that world with, the licensing world and really figure out ways to create, the maximum opportunity for artists, people who need to or want to make a living off of music.
Yeah, I mean, which is the reason why I love you and your song trader, because I find more independent artists don't have websites; they have Bandcamp sites. Quote unquote. You know,
Yeah,
The thing about Bandcamp is, I guess they can charge anything that they want to, and because I bought music from Bandcamp, from the site, and I think it's just great.
yeah, it's, setting up a store is free, so anybody can do it. Everybody, same contract, everybody signs the same contract. And I like to say there's no McMansions, in Bandcamp. Everybody
Right.
gets the same space. You do it the way that you want to do it. Everybody gets treated equally. When somebody buys your stuff, we let people know somebody just bought your stuff, right?
Right.
But we're not promoting artists over other artists. The community really supports itself.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's 100% organic, right? They've never, you know, uh, really advertised, much of anything, and they've never taken any advertising. So and what's also cool is that a lot of people know that they're supporting the artist, right? Not just buying their stuff. And they're just like, I love you. I think you're great. And they may instead of paying $20 for something, they may pay 25 or $30 to kind of help them out along the way. So
Right.
there,
Yeah.
that Patreon kind of tipping thing happens in that community. And then the other thing is that we take less than 20%, you know,
Good.
um,
Yeah.
and so I guess the best way to say is over 80% of all the revenue goes to the artist, which is the
That's
most of the revenue. Bandcamp Fridays, 100%, right? And we're the only music business in the world where we give most of the money to the artists.
yeah. Uh, yeah, which is great because I was gonna ask you about revenue and everything like that because okay, so say like a TV show needs an independent artist's music, right? So do they buy that license and then the artist gets revenue from that? Because I hear that Spotify doesn't pay as much as Apple, but I want to know if this um if this song trader pays more than Apple or and Spotify together.
Oh, of course, you make a lot. I mean, depending on who you are and
Right.
what the
Yeah.
license is for, right? If it's going to be for in a national TV spot that's going to run, during the Super Bowl, and the music is, you're going to get a lot of money for that,
Yeah.
right? If it's, if it's for social media, you're still going to make more probably from a license for social media, for a big brand than you are, off of Spotify streaming because you're talking about thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on who the artist is. And and then the use case, um, sometimes they want to have them do a re-record,
Right.
so they, so there's people can make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, in that world for sure.
Yeah. So I want to discuss another company that you worked with before. I think you worked here since '99. Um, Harmonix. You know, Harmonix is the biggest music game company in history as still right now. Um, how okay, so you were the vice president, or
Yeah.
I just
So it,
okay,
it
yeah,
was it was it was really interesting. The two founders who were going to the MIT Media Lab together, were still working, in their apartment. That's where the business was. And they were starting to grow the business. And a friend of mine that I went to Boston University with was connected with them and told them, hey, you should talk to this guy out in LA. I think he can help you out. So I flew out there and they're like, hey, you want to work with us. And,
they're like yes,
so it was like, so I was like the fourth guy in the business, and it was right at that time. Then they hired a finance guy, they hired their first developer, they got a small office and so I was there from the beginning, when it was just being able to make music with a joystick, or a mouse on a old Mac computer.
right,
And one of the things I helped them do was find investors, and one of the investors that I connected them with was Hans Zimmer in Los Angeles, and Hans and his partner Jay Rifkin, who ran a record label, invested. And what was really cool about it is I got to set up my office in their studio. So I got to hang out with like super cool people, and the rest of Harmonix was based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, just down the street from MIT, in a more in an office building. So it was a very interesting beginning.
so right, it sounds cool. Um, so you said you were the fourth person to join that
Yeah.
organization, right? So,
Mhm.
did you know that it would take off just like it is today? I mean, because there's a lot of people who still play Guitar Hero to this day. You know, after all these years.
It was like 10 years after I started that Guitar Hero happened. We tried so many different kinds of things. We did a theme park attraction with Walt Disney Imagineering called If Music Was in the Air, and you could play using sensors in your hands.
Oh, that would be awesome.
We
Yeah.
did Mattel, we worked with Mattel and Intel. We did music toys. We worked with some of the arcade companies we worked with music instrument companies. We created interactive music videos. Like the first interactive music video I got to do was with a band called No Doubt. Um,
Yes. Yes.
and that was really fun. So my job is to figure out like what's what's the opportunity for the technology and to figure out how to bring it to life. I was in Japan for a couple of years and working on things like instrumental karaoke products. Um, One of the coolest experiences was creating this prototype. I met this guy, a professor at Boston College, and he had a project called Eagle Eyes. Eagle eyes use dry electrodes that you put on your head, and it would track the movement of your eyes, like up and down, left and right, right?
Yeah.
So we could attach that controller to the software from Harmonix, and you can make music with your eyes, play
Oh,
with your
wow.
eyes, right?
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, well, this is pretty powerful. So I connected with the Berklee College of Music, which their music therapy department, and we did a project together. Um, and then I got connected with a guy, amazing person, who's he and he has passed, but his name's Rick Hoyt, and his father, helped him in, I don't know if you ever seen him, took him in marathons and um, in triathlons. He was quadriplegic, right? So
Okay.
he couldn't do it, and he was born, but his father did all these amazing things with him.
Yeah.
So he was able to play with his eyes,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so his whole life he could only listen to music, but now he got to play. And it was a really amazing experience because we were there. He was like loving it. It was network. So not only could he play alone, but he could jam with his dad.
Nice. Yeah.
And um and then he has an attendant and he spells with his eyes, right? You can
Yeah.
look left, right, and he broke up the alphabet and his attendant was like, he wants to know if you have, and then we're all like, what is he asking for? And then he says FREE BI, and of course we can't figure it out. We're all
Yeah.
like need to be replaced as music guys because we can't figure out R, right? And so obviously gets to the D. Oh, freeboard. He wants freeboard. Do we have
Oh, well,
freeboard?
yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like, no, we don't have it here today, but we'll come back again and you can play, and so he got to play the guitar with his eyes, the lead line in Freebird, right? And do it with his dad. So it was super amazing. So along the way, this was one of the amazing adventures that we had, and we had the owners of the the New England Patriots, the Kraft family. They're one of the early investors in Harmonix, and we showed them what we're doing, and they're just like, you know what? If we never make a penny off of this, just knowing that you did this made it worth it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 Because anytime we can help people who can't play games, because games is such
Yeah.
a like a stress reliever,
Oh,
and
it is.
and
Yeah.
it feels wonderful helping somebody who can't do certain things be able to do certain things.
Yeah, it's somebody who like their whole life they dream about it and they can't do it, and all of a sudden, I
They
don't know,
can.
here's somebody, and now I get to make music, right?
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. A couple of things I want to touch on that. Freebird. I love Freebird, man. But okay, so that is the most. That is the. If I could go the rest of my life without listening to one song, I'll be fine. And that's Freebird. Because I've been to bars and countless bars, and every time I go into the bar, it's Freebird all the time. So what's one song that you cannot listen to, but you'll be good without
Wow,
for the rest of your life?
for the rest of my life,
Yeah, one song you can like, yeah, okay, but I mean, it's a song you've always heard, and you're like, I don't,
um,
it's
that's
a
a
hard
good
one.
question.
Yeah.
Do I have it until the end of the show to
Yes,
give
sir.
you that?
Oh yeah, yeah. You got it anytime. But I do want to go back and ask you about the Disney touchscreens about Mickey Music. Did they say why that didn't work? Because that would be amazing. Because I know somebody, but Blake, one of my co-hosts, he goes to Disney all the time, and I think if I saw that, I would never leave Disney. Because it's music. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in Epcot Center in Disney World, and I
Okay.
think it was there for a while, and part of the innovation, imagination world within they just rotate things over
Yeah.
time.
Right.
So I think that but to your point, I mean that should be somewhere, lots of other places where people knowingly can go,
Right.
that specific experience to have it may be the only way to participate in music, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to being a passive listener, to be an active, creator of
Right.
music is
Yeah.
really, really rewarding. And I think that's, part of what, was so great about Guitar Hero and Rock Band, right? Is
Absolutely. Yeah.
that you're
Yeah.
able to, they gamified music making so that everybody could have fun, right?
Right.
Playing music, part of it is then you get to feel like it's the real deal, and it's great, and you get that immediate feedback, right? It's
Yes. Yeah.
so.
Touch on that a little bit. I always wondered what it would feel like being in front of the whole crowd, like 20,000 fans, and I don't get that feeling yet. But when I do play guitar, Hero, that makes me feel like I'm playing in front of people. So you're right,
And people give you, feedback, positive feedback. So,
exactly, yeah. Or
and that's,
they'll
yeah.
or they'll boo you off stage, which is sometimes I do, but that's all right. So, having worked with harmonics music systems on games like Guitar Hero, like we said, what insights can you share about how these games have influenced music discovery?
Um, well, I think, one of the first things is that you gain a whole different kind of appreciation for music when you're playing it, right? And you're like, and then because you're starting to see the music, not just hear the music, and you start to get exposure to composition, you start to get more exposure to lyrics, you start to then be able to compare, different, tracks and artists and what they're able to accomplish. And you're like, wow, this is really hard, or this is really complicated, or this is really cool. How do they do this? And then that really helps that connection, right? And then
Right.
then you want to and then you're also, when you're sharing with somebody else, right? It's not just listening, but you're sharing in kind of
Mm-hmm.
music expression and creation with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're teaching each other, sharing with each other. Again, just having those. So I think that was one of the key reasons that it was also, became more fun over time for, learn, because people were doing it together, people you knew, people you didn't even know, right?
Right. Right.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah. So I hear that guitar's coming back next year. Do you have any insights on that, or is that like a hush hush kind of deal?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but Harmonix was acquired by Epic Games,
Right.
and Harmonix is building out. The first thing is called Festival, right? It's inside of Fortnite, and so they're bringing artists to perform in there. They've added it, and they've brought, they're bringing Rock Band to Fortnite, and but also what they've done is the controllers, right? The guitars, that previous versions are now compatible. So you can play inside of Fortnite into these
Nice.
games, right? So, and then there's all these super new, cool new things that they're working on that haven't come out yet, that I think are just gonna like blow people's minds about,
Right.
um, being in the, I know it's kind of like on one hand, people are like, the metaverse, but these multiplayer gaming worlds really are that, people are like, we're going to build it. It's like, it already exists. It's called gaming, right?
Right, right. Yeah,
They've been doing it for years.
exactly.
And so, but these immersive music worlds that they're building, it's really going to be super powerful.
Yeah, yeah. Because I remember, I think Travis Scott was the first ever performer to perform inside the game Fortnite.
Yep, yep.
And that did wonderful views, and a lot of people loved it. I loved it too because it's like bringing music into inside games. Not just hearing it. You know, so I think
Yeah.
that's wonderful too. So, um, let's see here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so let's talk about your mobile company, your mobile, which it's cell phones and ringtones. Given your experience with your mobile now, um, what do you believe was the most significant impact of ringtones and mobile content and on the music industry?
Well, I think the thing about what was happening is, people were using music for personalization, right? As self-expression and not entertainment. And I think that was a really interesting thing, right? People were buying music so that their phone, when it rang, would sound a certain way. Um, and that was a reflection of their interest, the artists they like, the music they like. They started assigning like when my mom calls, or my dad calls, or my girlfriend calls, or my boss calls, all different kinds of songs, right? And then they would, or their mood changed, right? I'm going, this is my ringtone from when I go out, at
Right,
night,
partying or whatever. Yeah,
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 exactly. And so I think when we first started your mobile, we had this is back in the day of monophonic ringtones. It's like beep, 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 and
yes,
somehow it
yes,
turned into music, using MIDI. And the music industry never thought it was going to go anywhere. So we got, penny licenses, like as in, you know, dollar sign
yeah.
.01. That's
Right.
it, right?
Yeah, one penny. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, 1 penny because they're like, whatever, we'll just, we'll take something for it, but it's never going to go anywhere. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, the ringtone business. And they're like, oh, well, geez, this is real now. We want a piece of it, and then it moved from monophonic to polyphonic to hybrid ringtones to like real tones, right? Like the actual tracks of music. And then it just, kind of took off. And so I think that opened up the door for like people to think about all the different kinds of ways you can, you know, um, make money off of music. Even there's music in toothbrushes. There's music in
Yeah.
cars. Right?
Yeah.
Like, when you open the door, you hear something and you start up your car. It's just your ways to personalize, let's call them IoT devices, network connected devices. Sometimes it's embedded, right, in the
Yeah.
device. It doesn't need to be connected. And so that I think that's what made it really powerful is that personalization.
Yeah. I may be showing my age here, but I remember my first phone being, I think it was a Motorola Razor.
Oh
those,
yeah, yeah,
those,
yeah,
those
yeah,
flipper phones, and yeah, you're right. Those came with MIDI files, I guess you would say. Um, but I thought it was like outrageous that I heard an actual track playing on as a ringtone. So I loved it. But I guess that's because I know people now who have specific ringtones for their bosses or whoever they don't want to pick up. Which is great too.
yeah, yeah. And I think it inspired people to come up with all kinds of, new ideas,
Yeah.
for music, just when you're turning things off and on,
Yeah.
like when you turn on a TV, there's a sound, right? And that's where, and then the sonic branding, Song Trader, and we have a business called Massive Music. They created the Sonic brand for TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So, that, which is like now brands, you're like, oh, you hear that, you're like, oh, that's TikTok. And just like, how Intel has its, little thing that
Right. Yeah.
Sonic brands, and that's a huge business, creating Sonic brands for brands.
Yeah. Another company that I want to talk to you about today is your connected travel. Man, we're just covering your whole career right now, which is great. You know.
Yeah.
So with the rise of connected vehicles, like you said before, technology through connected travel, your company, how do you envision music consumption changing with the automotive space?
Hmm. Well, it's interesting because one of the things that we did um, while we were there is that we did a hackathon on our software technology for vehicles. And we worked with Universal Music Group, Capitol Records, Ticketmaster, and Ford, and this company called Rive, which did, kind of connected vehicle parking, and where you could kind of pay on demand or pay ahead. We kind of pulled it all together and we basically brought in all these developers and said, all right, let's reinvent the experience of concert experience for people in cars, right?
Right.
Everything when you discover a new artist and through a piece of music that you like and you're like, oh, I want to go, is that person on tour and you buy tickets? Can you buy tickets, hands free in the car by voice while you're driving, right? Or like, oh, push it to my phone. I want to, because if it's general admission, easy to buy a ticket. If it's, you got to pick out your seat, you're not going to do that while you're driving, or you shouldn't. But and
Right.
then yeah, and then Ticketmaster's like, especially now, you spend so much money on tickets, like for a lot of people, you're in Uber or you're driving or whatever, and you're kind of gearing up for the show on your way to the show. And so what does that look like, right? So as a ticket holder, what kind of personalized experiences can you get, right? And so opening that up, whether it's, content, you know, privileges you're going to get like with parking, or order ahead for your concessions, at the concert or merch that you can then pick up, like duty free, like order it ahead. Hey, this is the stuff that you're going to see at the show, and because you're like whatever, you're part of this program, you get to order ahead and you don't have to wait in line. You can see it before you even get there.
Right.
And then after the show, getting content from the show or other exclusive content and turning that like 3 hour experience into maybe a 4 or 5 hour experience, you know, because your vehicle takes you to and from, the concert. And so we came up with all these super cool, um, concepts, what, the future of music looks like, live music performance and music discovery and artists with these developers who built on, the enabling technology that we created.
Yeah. Going back to what you said about Ticketmaster, I think Ticketmaster is really on fire now. Well, in a bad way, because of the Taylor Swift tickets. Because I know they were up to like $5,000 for one ticket or something. But I think many people fail to realize that Taylor Swift does not control how much money they. Uh, I think it's the promoter talking with Ticketmaster or just Ticketmaster, correct? 'Cause I don't know any of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's the venue owners, right?
Yeah,
Right, that they got to work with.
right.
And all the different rights owners, and then there's the merch people and the concession people and the parking
Got to
people,
pay
on and
everybody.
on and on, the facility security people, right? The number of businesses, service providers that are involved to put on, one of these concerts is astronomical. And then, to your point, your, Travis Scott example,
Yeah,
obviously insurance and indemnification and
right.
all kinds of protections, for not only the artists, but, for, the for the fans that are there is like incredible important. I mean, think about like that. Taylor Swift had to cancel that concert, in Europe because there was a security threat, right? So
Yeah.
now I guarantee you that insurance rates have gone up and the security demands, have
Or
gone up.
higher. Yeah.
And you've got to have, just like the government does, you've got to be paying attention, the FBI and whatever else to
Got to pay
see
them too. Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on out there and kind of what the chatter is on, and if there's somebody who's plotting something not good, right? It's
Right.
just, and it's really complex and intense. But yeah, I mean, it's the splits, and who gets what.
Yeah.
It's complicated
Right.
and it's a challenge. It makes it, you know, uh, but the artist can't do it on their own. The
Right.
question is what's fair and balanced in that,
Right.
and as you said, there's probably room to more balancing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because yeah, a lot of people blame the artist, but they don't understand what you just said. They got to pay this, put this, and this. I guess only independent artists can control their whole income base and where to go and what would be right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a lot of people don't think about a lot of things, right? Like people are like, taxes are bad. I don't want to pay taxes. It's like, well, who's gonna take
Okay.
care of the garbage? Who's
Right.
gonna take care of the roads? Who's gonna take care of all of these things that, people aren't gonna work for free that,
No. No.
so they're gonna either the taxes pay for it or you're gonna have to pay for it directly. So
Right.
which one do you want?
Right.
And
Exactly.
not paying for your garbage, pickup is not a choice.
No.
Just like, providing these, like with these artists and performances, insurance companies won't insure you unless you have all these things in place, right? And you can imagine the bigger artist you are, the higher the insurance rate.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So I have three more questions for you, and then I'll let you go. But thank you for coming on so much. But let's go back to harmonics because I forgot one question that everybody wants to know or would like to know. Your time being in harmonics? Did you ever work with any kind of bands, just like No Doubt? And what was your favorite band if you did work with them? Which one was your favorite to actually like meet or work with?
Yeah, I think, other bands we got to work with were, Chemical Brothers,
Yes,
back in the
yes.
early days. Those were pretty awesome. And then, I think one of the titles, that, you know, Harmonix produced that was just amazing was, the Beatles title, right?
I love the Beatles. Yeah,
I mean, talk about a dream come true, right? To work with them because they've never done anything like that before.
right,
To work with those because you're not just working with the music and the artist, you're working with the art and the experience and giving this, unique opportunity, to fans to participate in their music in a way that they've never, done before, probably even imagined. So
right.
I just, the artwork there, it was, and animation was just extraordinary.
Great. Yeah. I got Beatles Rock Band and I still play it to this day. I actually found a guitar that I had to buy from eBay because no store sells old guitars anymore. So which
Uh,
is great. But I love still playing the Rock Band, the Eagle. I mean the Beatles. Yeah, Eagles is good too.
yeah,
Eagles
yeah,
is
yeah.
awesome. Yeah. Um, Two more questions, and I think that these are the most hardest questions that I've asked since the whole time we've been talking. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right,
I'm gonna put my seatbelt on.
there you go. Mount Rushmore. If you had to do four bands and put on at Mount Rushmore, who would it be? Through you could do any band, any artist. Who is your favorite top four to put on Mount Rushmore?
Wow.
Yeah,
This was a trick question. This wasn't on my list of questions
I
to
know.
get.
Dude, I wanted to surprise you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, of course, I have to put, the artist that I mentioned at the beginning, I have to put Jimmy Buffett up there.
Buffett's got to be one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I, his song, answer the other question, changes in latitudes and changes in attitudes is, if I
Mm,
was stuck on an island and I only had one song left to listen to over and over again, I would definitely listen to that song.
right.
It, you know, so, wow,
Mm,
Mount Rushmore.
yeah, we got Jimmy Buffett as number one. He's the
Yeah,
first.
it's got to be individual
Yep.
artists, right?
Uh, uh, I mean, this is your Mount Rushmore, so you can do artists, you can do bands. You know.
You know what? Growing up, I have to say, I really like Pete Townsend.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and um, I like Paul Simon
Okay.
and um, and Elton John. I would put up.
Yes. Yes. All right. So,
Did I get one that you would put up there too? You would put up.
uh, for me, it would be probably Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Um, Probably Chris Stapleton for sure, because I think he's bringing country back to where it should be. You know. And then if you talk rock, you gotta have ACDC up there. You know, because they're my favorite rock band of all time. And then one more would be uh, let's go with some rap. So we're gonna go with Tupac, I guess. You know, throwing some rap in there too. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's very hard to answer the questions just like you had a hard time. You know, because I mean, there's so many great bands and so many like obvious choices, but you only have four, which is weird, which is
Yeah.
crazy. You know, so yeah, so that was even hard for me to answer you for sure.
And it's because at different times of my life, like in college, I would have put Bono up there, right? You
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
I would have put up Michael Stipe from REM, right? Those
yes,
are
yeah,
those are two, big bands for me. When I was in school in Boston, and I just listened to them all the time.
right, yeah.
So
And I'm sure your Mount Rushmore and my Mount Rushmore will change minute to minute, day to day, which is true because I'm thinking about other bands that should be up there that I didn't say, you know. So yeah, yeah. So all right, yeah. One more question, hardest question previous than the other. Okay.
all right.
And this wasn't on your thing that I listened to because I wanted you to like get a raw reaction from me. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, what artist, album, or song that you can listen to, but you can't tell me, your wife, your kids, how it makes you feel deep inside your soul.
Mm.
I think this is the hardest question I ever did because I always ask the artists every time I have a guest on. I always ask them, and it's the last question. So I think this is a good question to wrap up.
Mm. You know, eh, um, there's a Bob Seger song, and it's I'm trying. It's called Traveling Man, Bob
Mm,
Seger, Traveling Man,
yeah,
and I think that it just remind me there's a connection in there, to kind of both sad and there's kind of it's a bittersweet song, right?
yeah,
So and I think growing up can be a bit like that too, right? Especially I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, so and most of the people in my family were working in the automotive industry and some other segments that were challenging, and so and Toledo is a bit I call it this suburb of Detroit because it's
yeah,
not too
right,
far.
yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, so I would say that yeah, I mean
Nice,
and you tell them, but you'll never know, right? You can never have ex the feelings are the feelings.
right, yeah. Music is what feelings feel like, you know. and you
Yeah.
can't explain feelings because it's hard to put in words. Just like Bob Seger's "Traveling Man" was hard for you to put, which answered it perfectly, you know. So, all right, so we honestly do thank you for coming on the show, and everybody can reach out to him at Song Trader. That's SONGTRADR without .com.
That's right.
And we do love you here. And when we're selling, we honestly do welcome you back anytime you want to come back on. Okay.
Thank you so much. It was great to meet you, and I look forward to listening to more of your podcast myself in the
Oh,
future.
thank you so much, sir.